What is up? What is up, everybody? Jason Peters from Jason Peters Rail Adventures with
And this is Fire Larry from Fire Larry.
on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Hey, we just wanted to talk about this last video we did in Otter Creek. I know I do a lot of videos of trains, and I still have a lot of videos in the pipeline with trains. But we've been hearing a lot about this town of Otter Creek on YouTube. Kind of a dysfunctional town, if you will, from the stories we've been told and seen on YouTube. I got the video playing behind me there, the latest video of Otter Creek, Florida. Otter Creek, Florida is located in Levy County, Florida, which is near Chiefland, which is near the Gulf Coast, which is near...
Well, it's right off of 19, and if you were to go to Highway 24 at 19, there's Otter Creek, and if you were to go west towards the Gulf, you'll run right into Cedar Key. It's about 24 miles west of Otter Creek, and I can tell you, and it's north of Inglis and south of Chiefland. But over the years, I've driven up 19 many times back and forth when I used to live in Tampa, and I never went to Otter Creek. Didn't know anything about Otter Creek. And several years ago, my wife and I, we drove out to Cedar Key, and we went through Otter Creek, and I didn't think much of it. I said, yep, there it is, and went on out to Cedar Key, and we drove around out there and spent a little time out there, and then came back, headed back to, at the time, we were living in Leesburg. But a little history, Hernando de Soto traveled in Florida and actually came through what is now Otter Creek. And Otter Creek, you know, is a very quiet little town. Jason and I were there just yesterday to check it out and see what it was all about. And we know that years ago, back in the 30s, if not before, a couple of railroads intersected there. Lumber was big in Florida, in central Florida. And they used the lumber, the cypress, as part of the crates that they built for citrus. Because years ago, Central Florida was well known for citrus, but due to the freezing winters they had back in the 80s, the frost line has moved further south. And so you see a lot of citrus more in the Lake Wales area of Central Florida, south of I-4. But I can remember back in the day, there were just a ton of citrus groves all over Central Florida. As a matter of fact, my wife's uncle used to work at Likes Pasco in Dade City. And when that freeze hit in the 80s and the groves were killed because of the freeze, the packing plants in Central Florida moved further south. But that's a little bit of the history of what Otter Creek was about back in the 30s and even before, back in the 1800s. It was never really a big town, but at one time it was the second largest town in Levy County. And, you know, and then it just started drying up little by little. Back in 2007, there was an effort to kind of resurrect the area and develop an historic district, as a lot of small towns have done in the past and are trying to do today, is having a historic district to bring in tourists, to bring people in, and that effort apparently wasn't too successful because there really isn't much going on there today. Most people just pass through as they're heading to Cedar Key. But as Jason was saying, what happened is that about 3 years ago, a YouTuber by the name of Jeremy Hales and his wife George, they bought some property in Otter Creek. They bought about 70 acres of land that has a home on it. And they wanted that to be sort of their southern base headquarters. They're from Ohio, and they just wanted peace and quiet. And that was a good place to come, because I know yesterday while we were there, it was very peaceful, very quiet, despite
we only saw a handful of people out and about.
Exactly, just a few people. And but what happened when Jeremy got there? There are some wells on his property, but he wanted some city water. And unfortunately, because he had to go from the road access well over 1,000 feet back to where the buildings are on his property, he wanted a 2-inch line. And most of the residential lines are 1 inch in Otter Creek. But because of the pressure, you know, if he had a 1-inch line, by the time the water got to his buildings, it wouldn't be much pressure. So he got a 2-inch line, which the town of Otter Creek considers commercial. And so, in any event, they put a 2-inch line, and I believe he had to pay to have that put in, which was quite expensive, several $1,000s. And over this whole period of time, over the last 3 years, the city was attempting to, or the town as I should call it, was attempting to upgrade their water quality. I've seen some pictures of the water coming out of the taps, and it looks like iced tea, and it's a shame. So a lot of folks don't even drink the water. They may use it for, you know, washing clothes and things like that, and showers, things they have to do, and can't get any other water to do that. But it's very difficult. But in any event, there has been attempts to improve the water, and there's been some mistakes on the part of the town when they'd had opportunities to tap into other water supplies and didn't do it. So, as I understand it, so it's been tough. And so, as the city has been attempting to improve their water and put in new filters and things like that, it created some issues with, I guess, backflow. And what's happened with Jeremy and probably some other folks, water was coming in and then being pulled back out because of the work on
Past the meter.
Past the meter, and then coming back through the meter, which was increasing his usage tremendously, when in fact his usage was well below the normal allowable for
that
private
price
use,
charge.
for residential use. And so that's been difficult. And so there's been attempts on Jeremy's part to deal with the city, the town hall clerk, and it seems like it just doesn't get through to anybody. There were allegations, well, maybe you have a leak. You know, it's on your end, not our end. And so he's been dealing with that off and on over the past 3 years, I should say, all the time, and has been dealing with an effort to try to get these matters resolved to no avail.
And as a fellow YouTuber, him on a much grander scale than I, we do look out for each other. It's a small community, well, getting bigger and bigger by the day. But it's not just the tea-looking water that left a bad taste in Jeremy's mouth. When he moved in, the property lines of the property that he purchased were all cattywampus. There was encroachment issues. There was people using his land for whatever they wanted to, nefarious things, and just as their own. And anybody knows, if you have property, you've got to protect your property. You can't just let people use it. I mean, so he did what he had to do to get the people off of his property, to get the lines clearly marked, and he's really spent a lot of money getting that property, you know, looking good. You know, he's got it improved. He's had some, you know, bush hogging done and some forestry mulching done on his property. So that's what originally started. When he first got there, there was people on his property, there was drug activity, there was just a bunch of messed up things going on. And he did alert the local authorities. That's kind of when he started getting involved with the county, well, with the city. And I'm not sure why the county doesn't do more. In the county we live in, the county has code enforcement. You know, yes, there is the city of that I live in, and they have their own code enforcement, but the county also has code enforcement that goes everywhere in the county. If the city's in the county, clearly, then they have responsibility everywhere. So I'm not sure why Levy County itself, you know, does not provide a better service there. I know there were some resolutions made years ago about getting the town cleaned up, and nobody's enforcing it. So yeah, I mean, Jeremy had a lot of bush hogging done on his property, but if that bush hog was just to go door to door, he'd have no end in sight for work. I mean, there's plenty to be cut. I mean, some of these houses, the trees are right up there, literally growing up against the house. I mean, he had encroachment issues with the neighbors and their junk and the drug dealers and such. But most of these residents had encroachment issues with the forest, and it just doesn't look like it should. A lot of people want to live out in the woods, but do you really want the woods right there growing on your house and creeping through your windows?
Right. Yeah, a lot of it was just overgrown, messy, and then this junking around the yard and things like that. Now, you know, to the credit for some of the folks out there, they live out in a rural area, and you know, they don't have manicured lawns and things like that, and that's understandable. And you know, they believe, hey, this is my property, and I'll do what I want, and that sort of thing. But to dump on somebody else's property, old furniture, old cars, just junk, is not right. And that's what got into Jeremy's crawl. He did not like that, and he wanted it cleaned up. He wanted stuff off his property. He wanted people off of his property, and you know, you can't blame him. Property's not cheap anymore, and I don't care where you go in Florida, property is not cheap. It's expensive. And so anyway, that was a big issue with him. And then dealing with the town of Otter Creek, and you know, we kind of noticed the meetings, and they meet once a month, the council and the mayor, and there is absolutely no order to those meetings. Robert's rules of order are foreign, apparently, to the town council, and it's every meeting. It's not just one or two. It's not just one mayor. It's previous mayors, from what we can tell, and I just don't understand it. We've had people, and you can watch it on the YouTube video, indicate that they belong to organizations, clubs, civic organizations, and that were run better than, you know, the town council. So it's been very difficult to get anywhere with the town council because of their ineptness and their ability to be able to run things. There's no clear leadership. And by the way, Jeremy and George, they purchased the Levy County ARC, Association of Retarded Citizens, and that in no way is to be any detrimental comment. That's the name of the organization, and he purchased it. They're building a new facility in the future here, and he purchased their old one, which is right on Highway 24, and is doing a lot to bring back the original look. It was originally a school that was built in the early 1900s, and a lot of history, rich history in that school. There are pictures of the folks that went to that school that still have descendants of those original students that live there in the Otter Creek area. And so he's very proud of that, and he even offers that school the large areas for events, meetings, whatever, if anybody wanted to use it, but to get with him and you know, use it for whatever. Matter of fact, I think Jeremy is going to host some Christmas events this coming Christmas, because the town no longer does anything. Where in the past they did it years ago, and Santa would come on a fire truck or something like that, and they'd have things for the kids to do, and that's all kind of dried up and gone away. So he has that facility now that he also takes care of, and does a good job with that. And you can see some of the videos where they've done some renovations on the inside to bring back the look to the original, and some other issues he's had on the property with someone parking their vehicle and leaving it on the vehicle, on the property without requesting permission, and that sort of thing. So there's been a lot going on, and recently things have come to a head. There was an elections held, annual elections of officers, and it was pretty close, and there were council members. And what happens after the elections, the council members then elect a mayor. And unfortunately, that has not happened. We now still have, or see in Otter Creek, a mayor who's being carried over, and I'm not sure there's any legal authority for that mayor to be continuing on, but he continues on. They have, the new council members have not elected a new mayor yet. They attempted to do that last week, but one of the council members had a prearranged trip out of the country that she had scheduled 8 months ago. And quite frankly, it's understandable that she should be going on that vacation and not have to suffer the expenses and not go. She did have an attempt to access the internet on a plane, and the connection was just too bad, so they were unable to hold their election for the mayor. They closed town hall. The town clerk resigned after charges were filed against her because of battery against Jeremy Hale. And even though it wasn't a heinous crime, it met the test of the statute, and she was, legally and technically charged, could be charged with battery. And I believe that matter was presented to the state attorney by the sheriff's department and is still under review by the state attorney. And we'll see what happens there. But she quit, and so there is no town clerk. And apparently the assistant town clerk also went to work somewhere else. And so there's no one there to run the office, so town hall's been closed, and that's made it difficult because the library's in the town hall, so there's no access to town hall. Not sure what people are doing in terms of getting any water bills, and where to pay their bills, who is handling the day-to-day activities of the town, who's paying the bills of the town. Not sure who's doing all of that. The mayor doesn't say a lot. And although he was a critic of the town over the years, when he was not the mayor and a council member, he is now, and now the shoe is on his foot, where people are complaining about him. And there are a lot of things being said about him. I don't know, good, bad, or ugly. That's not for me to decide, but it's created a lot of tension for a town, with just over 100 residents. Unbelievable. But it's getting a lot of attention because Jeremy Hales has well over 600,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Quite commendable. And so folks from all over, around the world, literally, are tuning in to see what's going on in Otter Creek. And so now lawsuits are also starting to be filed. One has been filed by Jeremy because of a records request. And apparently he has requested public records from the town clerk months ago, if not longer, and they just not had been produced. And there's been no effort, apparently, to do anything because there's been no excuses as to why these records have been produced. And a lot of it has to do with water bills and that sort of thing. So, and then there's certainly a legitimate request, but they just haven't been produced. So it'll be interesting to see what the outcome there. And because of all of the hullabaloo, and normally when you have issues like this, you got two sides. You got those that are for, those that are against. And so a lot of people that are against Jeremy and what he's trying to do, which is to try to make Otter Creek a nice place to live, a quiet place to live. He doesn't want to be involved in all of this. He just wants to be in a quiet place on his ranch and not be bothered. And but he wants fairness. He wants the folks in Otter Creek to be treated fairly. And the issue with the water bill, he wants straightened up, and he wants to help. He has offered to do things for Otter Creek. He's offered to hold a workshop on how to conduct a meeting within Robert's Rules of Order, things like that make sense. And so he's working really hard to do that. And you have some folks that look at him, he's an outsider, and he doesn't belong here, and he doesn't need to get his nose involved in our business. Well, now he's a resident, albeit a part-time resident. He's a property owner. He has a big stake in that community. He has over 70 acres between his two properties. He deserves to have a say in what goes on in that community, but he wants to help, and that's important. But in any event, there are folks that just don't like him. They don't want him there. They wish he hadn't come there, and they don't like the attention that they're getting. And that part is understandable, but they are very nasty in the way that they speak about him. Some things are just made up. I don't know where they come from about him and his wife George, and it's just terrible. Some of the things that are being said. A lot of it's just defamatory and things that are being said that are malicious, and they're actually in violation of certain laws. And these folks will probably be sued at some point for defamation of character and that sort of thing. So we'll see. And some of it's in writing, so it also comes under another law. So we'll see what happens there, but a lawsuit has been filed for the records request, and that's pending, that I understand, and what he has said. But yeah, it's quite an interesting little place, and I know I've driven by Otter Creek on US 19. I can't tell you how many times, and never dreamed that was ever going to happen there in that small, sleepy little town, but sure enough. But we enjoyed driving through it. I was the wheelman, and Jake was the photographer, videographer, and did a lot out there.
And we'll be going back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not our only. We're not that far really from Otter Creek, straight down Highway 27, and really all the water bills there should be at a minimum, because most people probably only use the water there to flush the toilet. But my whole thing is, why is the county not stepping in, the county of Levy? We pay. I live in the county here where I live, and I pay quarterly fire service fees. It's about $50 a quarter. It's not too expensive, and it goes for the fire department and some water, infrastructure. I'm not sure what they pay down there. I know they used to have the volunteer fire department. Not sure what happened with that. I remember when they were still active. We used to pass scenes all the time heading south. But I think the county should step in and do a little more, because these people are paying property taxes, and the property taxes are going to Levy County. I don't think the property taxes would be going to Town Hall of Otter Creek. So they should start providing a little bit more service to Otter Creek. And Otter Creek is really not that big, maybe a mile square, maybe not even that. Everything's condensed right there. And as somebody said, make America great again. Jeremy's just trying to make a little piece of Florida great again.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that there have been efforts to do some things with the water. The town received a grant. I think it's over $600,000 for a grant to work on the water, and they did build a new tank and a treatment area as well. They also received a grant from the state of Florida for well over $1 million for broadband, so that everybody would have access to the internet. But the problem is communications, as I see it, for many of these issues, because the town has done a poor job, as I see it, of communicating to the residents what they've done, what they want to do, and communicating what's going on with the town council. Originally, the meetings weren't widely attended, but now they are, of course. But when you see those meetings on YouTube videos, and they're talking about bills and things, they vote to pay the bills, but nobody knows what the bills are. How much money is coming in, how much money is going out. It's just like you or I. We all like to pay our bills, but if we don't know how much money we have in the bank, if we don't know how much we're spending, or if we don't tell our spouse, what we spend our money on, and we're going to have a bill for whatever it is, or checks were written, that's the same way there. It seems to be unorganized. and you don't know whether and the city has had some audits by the Auditor General's Office of Florida, and they have cautioned them about their financial situation, that they could be in dire straits. And so it's been very difficult, just from the few town hall meetings that we watched, and then looking at some that took place years ago that Jeremy was able to get a hold of and post. I don't know that things have changed all that much, but they need some good advising. And I'm not complaining about their lawyer. The lawyer's only going to do what he's paid for, but they need some good advice. They need some help. They need some, and I know they use a CPA to do their audits, but they probably need some help with their profit and loss statements that need to be provided to the board. They need to have training on how to run a meeting, town council meeting, and inform the citizens what they're doing, and get more citizens involved, do things in the community. As I said earlier, back in 2007, there was an attempt to create a historical district there, so that would bring in tourists, and they need to work on that, especially now they've got all this publicity. Work on it, take advantage of it, but work together. Everybody needs to work together. There was an attempt by one of the residents down the street from Jeremy to create a turtle sanctuary. And unfortunately, I guess it didn't pan out, or it's slow going. And this is one of the critics of Jeremy. And we're not taking sides one way or the other. But we're saying if people work together instead of against each other, things can get done. And as Jason said, make Otter Creek great again, and make it a thriving community. There's not a lot there, but here's an opportunity for things to happen. And so, we wish them well.
And it's a nice little area. I mean, it's quiet, quaint. I mean, it's nice. I mean, in a manner of speaking. I mean, the raw land itself is nice, and then you get to what you see in Jeremy's videos, which make the area not look nice. But as a rural area, the land, it's got nice land out there. If you like hunting or fishing, or walking around creek beds and that type of thing, I mean, there's a lot to do in that area, and it could be a lot nicer, and I think it will be with a matter of time. And I'm just curious to see where this all goes. And
yeah, and that's right, Jason, because if this thing can turn out to be positive, if folks can learn to get together and put aside their personal feelings and stop believing the misinformation that's out there, which is an epidemic problem in this country. Too many people believe misinformation, and they're unwilling to change their view because of that misinformation and where they think it's coming from. But if people would just put aside their differences and say, hey, let's work together, and that town hall is where it can start. And so we do wish them well. But you're right. Florida is great weather year round. Fishing is great year round. Hunting is great throughout the year, different hunting seasons, and that's all in the Otter Creek area. You go out 24 to Cedar Key, and a lot of folks are out there going fishing in the Gulf, and then just go a little bit south to Crystal River. The diving and snorkeling is just what a perfect area that they're in. And then going a little bit further north, to Chiefland, Steinhatchee for hunting and fishing up there. This is just a great area, and it's often been referred to in some of that area as the Forgotten Coast, and it has in a way. But folks, if you're from the local area, or you're gonna take a vacation to Florida, head up US 19. It's a few hours north of the Tampa Bay area, and so after you maybe go down to the Gulf Coast and Clearwater or Fort Myers area, and you want to head up north on US 19, it can be slow going through the big cities, but once you get north of the Homosassa area and you head up to Crystal River and a little bit further north up 19, it's nice. and it's all nice, but it gets congested in some of the bigger cities. But stop in and stop into Otter Creek and maybe make your way out to Cedar Key and come back. And you can cut across 24 and it'll take you right into Gainesville, hit I-75 and head north. And so it's a great area. Go up 19, it'll take you right all the way into Tallahassee. Literally US 19/27, dead ends at the Florida Capitol. Who knows? Maybe you'll see Ron DeSantis out there, or not. Who knows? But folks, it's good talking to you. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, leave some comments for us. We would appreciate it. Jake, any closing comments you'd like to make?
You've
only had one.
Be sure to keep watching our videos.
And go to see, hashtag Fire Larry.
Fire Larry on YouTube,
Yeah.
Jason Peters Rail Adventures, and you got to put the comma in there because I do other adventures. We've been to some haunted locations. We've been out in abandoned locations. I've got a couple of SD cards full of video that I just haven't gotten around. I work full time here in town for the county, so YouTube is a hobby, and I enjoy it, and I get to show you all what I see. And again, check out the last video that was posted from Otter Creek, Florida, and have a good one. We'll see ya.
Take care.